For a long time, trying to understand the health and wealth of India's aging population was, well, it was like navigating a vast country without a map. But that has all just changed. Today, we're diving into the first ever longitudinal aging study in India, or LASI. It's a groundbreaking report that gives us an unprecedented look into the lives of over 72,000 Indians. So, why does a study like this matter so much right now? Get this number. By 2050, the oldest old, we're talking people aged 75 and over, are projected to make up 5.2% of India's entire population. Now, that might not sound huge, but it represents a massive and incredibly rapid demographic shift that is absolutely going to reshape the country. And that projection raises a really important question, right? What does it actually mean to grow old in India today? Before the study, the answers were kind of scattered, fragmented. It created this huge knowledge gap that made planning for the future, making good policy almost impossible. And that is exactly where our story really begins. The LASI report isn't just another survey. No, this thing is a total game changer designed to fill that very gap. So let's get to know this monumental piece of research. The best way to think about it is this. For decades, India was flying a bit blind into this demographic future. LASI provides the first real detailed map, a tool to finally understand the terrain and plan the journey ahead. So, what makes this map so special? Well, first off, the sheer scale is just mind-blowing. It's the world's largest aging study of its kind, and believe it or not, it's India's first. It covers every single state and union territory. But what's really crucial is that it doesn't just ask people how they feel. It combines its interviews with direct health exams. We're talking biomarkers, things like blood pressure tests and lung function tests. And it uses modern tech, CAPI, to make sure the data is top-notch. And that word longitudinal is so important here. This isn't just a one-time snapshot. A longitudinal study follows the exact same group of people over many, many years. This lets researchers see how their lives actually change, their health, their finances, their social connections, as they age. It's like watching a movie of someone's life instead of just looking at a single photograph. And just to give you a sense of the sheer ambition of this project, look at these numbers. To be truly representative of a country like India, the sample size had to be enormous. 4,000 households in Uttar Pradesh alone, all part of a massive 61,000 households across the entire country. The logistical effort here is just staggering. All right, so let's get into the findings, starting with health. And what the report reveals is a really complex picture, something often called a double burden of disease. This is really the fundamental question the health section tries to tackle. And as we're about to see, what LASI uncovered is a pretty significant gap between how healthy people think they are and what the objective data actually shows. Now this, right here, gets to the absolute core of LASI's innovation. See, usually surveys just ask people, hey, have you been diagnosed with high blood pressure? But that completely depends on them having seen a doctor in the first place. LASI did that, but it also took direct measurements, those biomarkers we talked about. And this contrast between what people say and what the science shows reveals a huge hidden burden of undiagnosed disease. And the scale of that burden is, well, it's stark. According to WHO data that's cited right in the report, non-communicable diseases, we're talking things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, are responsible for nearly 2 out of every 3 deaths in India. This isn't some niche issue, it is a full-blown nationwide health crisis. And if we break down those NCD deaths, the biggest driver is crystal clear. Cardiovascular diseases are the single largest killer, making up 27% of all those deaths. The takeaway is simple. These long-term chronic conditions are the dominant health challenge for aging Indians today. Of course, that health challenge doesn't happen in a vacuum. It has a massive economic impact. So let's turn to the financial side of the story, which the report shows is a pretty fragile foundation for a lot of people. The data here reveals a really clear income gap. On average, households that have at least one older person in them actually have a lower income per person than households without. So what does that mean? It means at the exact time in life when health needs are going up, financial resources are very often going down. And this is where things get really tough. Over 70%. That's how much of all health spending in India is paid directly out of pocket by regular people and their families. So you combine those shrinking incomes with a massive direct bill for healthcare, and you have a recipe for serious economic distress.
And here is the direct consequence. Just look at the top reasons that households go into debt. At 17%, healthcare costs are the single biggest cause. Think about that. A single serious illness can trigger a devastating financial crisis, one that could jeopardize a family's economic security for years to come.
But, life is so much more than just health and wealth. So let's turn to the social and psychological side of things. How do older Indians actually feel about their lives? The results here are, well, they're a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, a big chunk, 46%, report high life satisfaction, and that's great. But we can't just ignore the other side of this chart. Nearly one-third, 32% of all elderly Indians report low satisfaction with their lives. That is a huge number of people feeling unfulfilled or unhappy in their later years. So, what's a major factor driving this? The data points pretty clearly to social connection. Among elderly people who live alone, that number for low life satisfaction jumps to a staggering 48%. It's just a powerful, powerful reminder that community and companionship are absolutely vital for our well-being as we age. So, what do we do with all this? When you put it all together, what is the ultimate message from this first wave of the LASI study?
The most important thing to remember is that this first wave isn't the end of the story. Not at all. It's the beginning. It establishes the baseline. The real power of this longitudinal study is going to come from tracking these same 72,000 people over the next 25 years, watching as their lives unfold. Which brings us right back to where we started. For the first time, India has a detailed, evidence-based map of its aging population. The data is clear. It shows the health challenges, the economic vulnerabilities, and the deep social needs. The map is in hand. The big question that's left is, where will India choose to go?